Your guest data holds the key to delivering extraordinary experiences. On last week's episode, we created an 8-step guide to mastering data, specifically tailored for quick service restaurants. Today, we're going to expand on step 1 from the guide, understanding your guest data. Our focus today is going to be on 3 critical areas. Number 1, data collection. 2, integrating your data. And number 3, the quality of data that you collect. Through this process, we're going to transform basic data into meaningful insights that inform smarter business decisions and contribute to your restaurant's success. Let's grow. Welcome to the Restaurant Growth Show podcast, where we talk about how operators can use technology to grow their business. We've got a lot to talk about in this episode, but first, let's introduce our co-host. With more than 25 years of experience, Jose Albas has successfully founded and operated companies in software and hospitality. Lastly, who am I? My name is Gordon. I am your host. I have over 16 years in the food service industry with more than a decade in technology startups. This podcast is sponsored by Dynpricing, real-time restaurant profitability. Dynpricing uses artificial intelligence to improve restaurant profitability by dynamically updating menus across digital channels like Uber Eats, DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, and Grubhub. Jose, what's going on today?
¿Qué pasa? Good.
Hola, ¿qué pasa, mi amigo?
Like ¿qué pasa? The data.
That's what's happening.
Yes.
All right. So, like I said from the top of the show here last week, if you haven't watched or listened to that episode, it was an 8-step guide to mastering data, specifically tailored for QSRs. Please do check out that episode. And I realized after I'm delivering this message that data can just be so overwhelming. I think we've all opened up a spreadsheet and just been like, what am I supposed to do with all of this information? And then immediately just close that document. And that's the same with QSR guest data. And what we're trying to do here is trying to simplify this process, make sense of all of this information, and turn it into actionable insights that each restaurant can use. Every restaurant is different. Everyone's menu is obviously different, location to menu to your operating hours. All of these things go into how you're going to look at your data and what's going to give you the information that you need to grow your business. Jose, where do you want to start here?
I'd say that most operators have so much data in their technologies that it can be overwhelming to begin with. I think that there is such an amount of data that it's inevitable. There is noise, and what we want to look is for the sound. So I think that, let's try to make it as simple as possible. It's not going to be easy, but I think that by first removing that fear of, or the overwhelm of data points and spreadsheets, like you said, let's go step by step.
You know what? I love that analogy, turning the noise into sound, or even better, let's make music out of this noise. The data can, like you said, is a lot. It's a lot to get through, but hopefully we can make some sense of this. So without further ado, let's jump into the first topic that we have here, breaking down collecting your data. So number 1, you want to understand your guest data. Let's really take a balcony view, a high level view of that enormous document that you have collected from your POS or your third party delivery. Let's look at that data. Jose, what are the data points that you're pulling out of an enormous document with all of this data? What are you looking at first and foremost?
Well, I think that the most important pieces of data come from the POS, and basically, you have there all the sales. POS these days collect the information from multiple sources, and they get entered in multiple ways, even manually, from third party, their first party systems. And that is a really good way of having aggregated data that can be very useful, let alone that costing is so important these days that it is crucial to understand the margins that the menu provides as profits.
Okay, so first and foremost, you're looking at cost of goods. Okay, so but in terms of your guest data, what are the elements that you look for when you've cracked open a report from a POS system from one of our customers and you're going to try and make sense of it? Well, what are you looking for right away?
Well, sales, what got sold, when, time of day, the season, right? You want to understand what sells when, and And that way you start understanding the behavior and how people interact with your menu and your food. There's additional pieces like, for example, a first-party ordering system can be really powerful, especially if they have the capability of embedding a, let's say, Google Analytics that on its own, it's extremely powerful and allows for an understanding of the online behavior, which together with the POS can give you huge insights into who they are, where they come from, and what they order.
And what okay, so super high level, who, what, where, how, why, right? So we're looking at time of day, we're looking at total sales, we're looking at item sales. What about customer information like their email or their phone number?
Well, that is also a really powerful piece that unfortunately on the third parties, it's not really owned by the restaurant, but fortunately the first parties should provide all this data owned and controlled by the restaurant. So there's a huge opportunity of collecting emails to promote collecting, right? So it is quite important to understand that and to try to get those emails and phone numbers.
Exactly. So when we're collecting this data, I think what we want to do here is really just sort of build a customer profile, right? And there are automation tools that we can get into a little bit later. But if we're looking at things like if we've collected an email address, we've collected a first and a last name. We know where they are, obviously. And then we also know what items they've purchased. We can start to build a really well-rounded profile of that particular customer. It sounds like a lot to do, but once you start breaking it down day by day and then extrapolate that over a quarter, you've really got a really deep insight as to who your customers are. And from there are a lot of things that we can do to market to them and increase sales and grow your business. Mm-hmm. So let's say we've opened up a report, we've taken a look and we start to aggregate, we start to collect customer names. We've got a profile. We can see what they've purchased. We want to add their phone number and their email address. What other aspects of guest data are we looking for that are going to help complete this profile?
Well, there is the source, which Google Analytics or a tool similar can provide you, how they like to come to your online profiles, how they interact with them. And I think that one that we tend to forget about and somehow operators forget to give them the importance that it is, because it's qualitative and it takes some extra effort, is the reviews. Look at the reviews about the restaurant, right? Interact with the reviewers. They give an insight of not only what they do, but more about what they think.
That's a great point. I'd also like to add their service type, right? Do they prefer to dine in? Do they prefer delivery? Do they prefer pickup? Is there a pattern that you can see there? And are there other customers that are similar right off the bat? You can already start to cultivate a marketing campaign to that particular type of customer that we've only spent a few minutes looking at a report. So what we're doing here after we've collected all of this important information from what they've sold, items that are trending, what we're doing is we're looking for patterns to identify with these trends. Which items are best sellers? When are your peak hours? Your customer preferences. We're looking at feedback analysis. And then what we want to do is we want to implement effective collection methods so that you're not going through and trying to do this manually, right? So there's software out there that can help automate the process of collecting the proper data that you want. And then lastly, here on this first part, you want to look for regular updates. So you want to ensure that your data collection is consistent and up to date. You're not doing it once a year. You're not doing it every 6 months or whatever. You want to do that on a consistent basis. And I know it's really, really tough for operators to find the time to be able to do this, but believe me, this is going to benefit your business immensely. Okay. And
I agree. I think that one of the things that I have told them is like, look, if go into the reports, play with it, see what it shows you, right? It's a good start to at least be like, I wonder what this is. Just the curiosity of it is a great start.
Agree. Yeah. And each POS system, each third-party platform, all of these reports are different. Again, they're just as unique as your business itself. So there's going to be a lot of different variables and combinations of things that will work and won't work for your system. But again, we want to take a high level view. We want to take a balcony view of what your guest data looks like in general, and then we can begin to start digging and looking for trends and putting together a really great customer profile. So the second step here is data integration. And I touched on this briefly. There are some automations available. There are some applications that you can use to help integrate your data sources and compile these reports to give you some actionable insights. So your goal basically with data integration is to bring together data from your POS system, your third-party delivery platforms, and your first-party online ordering systems. Tools like Zapier, or excuse me, you know what? I've been corrected on this several times. It's pronounced Zapier. You know, it's spelled Zapier, and I've been doing that for a while, and I've been corrected online. So everyone out there that has corrected me, I finally learned. It only took a year. So a tool like Zapier is actually really, really powerful. There are free versions of it. If you want to get really into the nitty gritty, you can go with a paid version, but the free version really does integrate basically every type of technology you can think of. Zapier pretty much has an integration for us. Really good. So something to keep an eye on. So Zapier will automate the process of syncing data from multiple sources into one central system. Jose, have you played around with Zapier?
Oh yeah, a lot. So, and I think one of the pieces that can be quite useful is automating the pulling of data into Google Sheets, for example. That, and then from there do other things. But then you can also automate all sorts of notifications, email, many things. It can be really powerful. I mean, with a CRM and an integration to and Zapier and some of the formulas, the apps that can be programmed there. There's a lot of guidance too, so it makes it super easy just to understand that it helps you integrate different pieces, and the automations that are already there, it's out of the box, so it's not that complicated.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned CRM, customer relationship management tool. Things like HubSpot is probably the biggest one in the world. Most people are familiar with, but this is where all of that data can be centralized and where you can begin to actually build out reports from multiple different platforms, like your third party, like your first party, like your POS system, and not rely specifically individually on each one of these channels that you're collecting data from. When you compile them all together, it's going to give you a much better view and understanding of the performance of your products and your services and your business overall. So platforms like HubSpot are great. They should be user-friendly and capable of handling the volume and complexity of your data. HubSpot absolutely will be able to. Now you can also customize your CRM. You can tailor HubSpot to meet your specific needs. It should reflect your restaurant's operational metrics, customer data, and sales patterns. So again, each of your businesses is incredibly unique. So you'd be able to take some time and really customize it to your business and to get the most out of a CRM like this.
Right. I think the CRM, I mean, the free version allows for doing a lot of things. And I think that another alternative is if you're already using MailChimp, for example, that has a lot of CRM capabilities as well that helps with the campaigns and identifying who these people are, especially when you mix it and integrate it with a Google Analytics. Again, free.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, we talked about this before, but regularly checking in when you're collecting that data, you also want to monitor the quality of the data that's coming in. You want to make sure that you regularly check the data within the CRM for accuracy and completeness. And then you want to address discrepancies. So quickly resolve any data mismatches or inconsistencies between different sources. It sounds a little bit more complicated than it actually is, because you'd be able to see things would jump out. You don't have to necessarily read code like you're in the Matrix and you're trying to decipher what's going on your screen. The more time that you spend looking at these data sources and your CRM, the more obvious these discrepancies are going to be to you.
Furthermore, I think that another piece that it's important to look for these patterns is to understand how, when you have two systems or two sources of data that work at the same time or in sync, but they are not integrated, to start to understand by looking at two and finding how the two relate, right? For example, because one way of finding patterns is also finding the lack of, meaning that when you see that this happens 7 times, but this one only 6, what happened there? If they're supposed to be measuring the same. And then that's a way of understanding that there may be, it's not a break in the system, it's not, but it's like that maybe the source was from something else, or there was a duplicate, or any kind of understanding between two sources of data can be really powerful as well.
I agree. And that's a great segue into our third critical aspect of understanding your guest data. That's the quality of data that you're collecting. So establishing data quality standards, define the quality metrics. So what you want to do is you want to set clear standards for what constitutes high quality data. This includes accuracy, completeness, timeliness, and relevance. Jose, do you have anything to add?
Well, all that you just mentioned sounds sound, and everything that's not is noise.
Well said, sir. And next, you want to be able to understand the importance. So recognize that high quality data is the backbone of effective decision making. Inaccurate or outdated data can lead to poor business choices.
Right. It's important also to focus on what really matters. And because data can be also very distracting. And sometimes one way of doing this is to start with the question, right? And just think like, okay, I'd like to know this. Can I actually get there and see if the data is able to answer or give some insights into that question?
So moving on here, implementing regular data cleaning. What does that mean, Jose? What does data cleaning mean?
Well, I, for example, have a monthly scheduled cleaning of CRM, HubSpot most precisely. And what happens is that a lot of times there's everything from spam to irrelevant leads that get into the system, and what it does is that it not only creates weight in the system that you're using, that at some point, if you have too much, it could cost you, especially when they're free, but they're also, when you put a report, it shows up as an outlier that you really don't need there, and it could throw away a full report.
Yeah, exactly. When I think of data cleaning, for me, I think of things like duplicates. Right? If there's duplicate information of a customer, their transaction, or their information, they've been entered multiple times into your CRM or into your POS, you remove those because it's redundant and it's going to give you misinformation with your reporting, and it's not going to give you good information, right? So the most obvious is duplicate, incorrect information, things that really jump out to you that don't belong within that data set or within that report. Get that out of your CRM and you're going to get a more accurate picture of how your business is performing. I want to mention a data cleaning tool by the name of Data Ladder. No, they're not sponsored, but this is actually a really useful tool. We'll add a link to the description of this podcast. But what Data Ladder can do is automate the process of identifying and correcting inaccuracies, duplicates, like I mentioned, and outdated information in your data sets. And lastly, what I want to mention is maintaining data accuracy, continuous monitoring. You got to stay on it.
Yeah, I think that it's important because there's always moments where you actually want to pull the data to move it into a tool, for example. And other than a tool that is cleaning the data, there's other places that you want to actually pull that information, to put it into a MailChimp, to put it into, you name it, right? You want to use it for something else, for your other solution, for example, your in-dining booking system, or from there into another place. And so it's important because when you do that, if you have multiple systems, you want to have it all clean into one list, that it's not full of duplicates or multiple sources of multiple pieces of data that are just going to clog the information and the answer to the questions that you have.
So we've got some additional points here that we'll include in the description of the podcast, and then we'll also elaborate those on the full version of the 8-step guide to mastering data for QSRs. But we are running a little bit long on time here. So really what we want to say here is that the quality of data is the cornerstone. So maintaining high quality data is not just a task, it's an ongoing commitment to excellence. By ensuring the integrity and relevance of your data, you pave the way for more accurate analysis, better customer understanding, and ultimately a stronger, more responsive restaurant business. That is all the time we have for this episode this week. I'm going to end with these thoughts. Mastering your data is essential for getting an edge in this industry. Start by gathering comprehensive data, integrate it effectively, and maintain its quality. This approach isn't just about managing numbers, it's about unlocking insights that drive your restaurant's growth. By doing so, you're not only making informed decisions today, but also paving the way for future success. Remember, your data holds the key to understanding your customers and shaping your restaurant's journey. Until next week, say goodbye, Jose.
Goodbye, Jose.
All right. Thanks, everyone.